It's the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We'll be here with you for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics as we get ready for the weekend. Plenty going on. Plenty going on, from college spring sports postseason play to professional postseason action to a little race over in Wilson County this weekend. We got it all this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be fun talking about it. And nobody I'd rather be talking about it with for the next couple of hours than the king of P-Town, Wade Neely.
Mo, it's the unofficial first weekend of summer, and so you are exactly right. We got sports coming out of our ears. We got so much going on. It is a fantastic time to kind of kick things off, and you are absolutely right. Next couple hours is going to be a lot of fun to kind of unpack a little bit, but also kind of get everybody prepped for a busy weekend.
Absolutely. In our second hour, we will be joined by our favorite NBA fan, LANDEN SECREST. I'm excited to see how much Thunder gear he can get on one body for this segment as we talk about the NBA playoffs. The Thunder have secured their spot. I really struggle with that singular plural thing that they do with nicknames, but Oklahoma City is in, and they are awaiting their opponent. And after last night, they're going to have to wait a little longer, but excited to talk to LANDEN about how the NBA postseason and now the NBA finals are shaping up. In our next segment, we will be joined by Ben Arthur of NFL on Fox, covers the AFC South for them, and so he's got some insight on the Tennessee Titans as they make their way through the offseason. They've been working out at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park this week, and it's kind of quiet. And I don't know what quiet means coming off of a 3-14 season, so I'm looking forward to getting some intel out of Ben when we visit with him here in the next segment. Also talking a little Major League Baseball. Somebody salvaged some pride last night, but it's a tough Thursday in Philadelphia for the Atlanta Braves. We'll get into that more later in the show. Again, we've got the Women's College World Series going on. We've got the NCAA baseball tournament getting cranked up tonight. Well, today, right now. More news from Lewiston, Idaho. We'll get to that later on as well. Again, plenty to get to over the next 2 hours, and we should probably set about going ahead and getting to it, Wade. What do you think?
I say we do it. You just laid the table out perfectly. We got a ton to break down, ton to preview. I say we give the people what they want.
Give them what they want. Absolutely. Let's get it started with yesterday's results and this weekend's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Buckle up, boys and girls. Just after the 2 o'clock hour, that means we kick things off with the Friday rundown. And we start with Thursday results, Major League Baseball. A couple of Brave scores to give you guys. One played during our show. It was the Phillies defeating Atlanta 5-4. And the Braves did get that win that Mo referenced a moment ago, 9-3 in your nightcap. Astros not on the winning end of last night's game versus the Rays, 13-3. Was your final there as Tampa again defeats Houston. Sounds also fell last night. 7-1 was your final. Indy with a 7-1 victory over the Sounds. We had a couple of WNBA scores last night. Close game, but no loss for the Liberty as they defeat Golden State 82-77. A lot closer than the experts think. And Chicago, buckle up, boys and girls. Chicago has won a game. They defeat the Wings last night, 97-92, to cap your WNBA and your Thursday scoreboard.
Yeah, close but no cigar for Paige Beckers and the Wings there. Friday's schedule of local interest, or of interest here on this show anyway. In Major League Baseball, the Red Sox come to Truist Park taking on the Braves. That is a 6:15 start, and it will be shown on Apple TV. So if you're used to watching them on FanDuel, they won't be there. Apple TV is where you will find the Red Sox and the Braves. Again, 6:15 first pitch there. About an hour later, 7:10, the Tampa Bay Rays and the Houston Astros will continue their series out in the Lone Star State. At 6:05, it'll be the Sounds at Indianapolis. They look to even that series after falling back 2-1 with last night's loss that Wade just mentioned. WNBA action tonight. All of this can be seen on ION, so obviously it's going to be regional. But the Liberty travels to the nation's capital, taking on the Washington Mystics. The Connecticut Sun is at the Indiana Fever minus Caitlin Clark. Both those are 6:30 starts. At 9 o'clock, the Minnesota Lynx is on the road at Phoenix. The Sparks go to the Aces, and Atlanta goes all the way across the country to the Pacific Northwest, taking on Alicia Clark and the Seattle Storm. So, again, all of those can be seen on ION, so check your local listings to see which one you get.
Get that league pass going tonight. Crank them all up, watch them all, and full slate practically. You were right. And that Apple TV broadcast is, man, they do a great job on Friday nights. So that'll be a kind of a special treat as Atlanta. They really dive into the metrics. If you're a stat head, buckle up. You're in the heaven tonight for that broadcast. Roll into Saturday. Let's get you some schedule action as we creep into the weekend. The Rays and the Astros will crank things up at 3:10. You can see that game regionally. You can also see the Braves at 3:10. Again, hosting the Red Sox will be shown this time on FanDuel Sports South. Sounds action, they continue at 5:35 at Indy. Again, the Sounds are on the road this weekend, and first pitch comes your way at 5:35. NSC, final home match in what has been a wild home month filled of May, but they are in action versus NYC City. Should be a fun matchup. That is actually a matinee of sorts. Gets underway at 3:30. You can see that one on Apple TV. WNBA action, lone game tomorrow night. The Sky and the Wings are going to run it back, and that game will be in Dallas at 7 p.m. to cap your Saturday slate.
Sunday, Major League Baseball action, 12:35 start for the Red Sox and the Braves down in Atlanta. You can see that one both on the MLB Network and on FanDuel. At 1:10, it'll be the Rays in Houston against the Astros. Sounds conclude their 6-game series in Indianapolis Sunday afternoon. That'll be a 12:35 start. WNBA action, surely one of these is televised. We don't have TV listings for any of these games, but you can't tell me. We've talked about the WNBA and the poor job that they do promoting themselves, but I see no TV info for the Sun at the Liberty. That's a 2 o'clock tip. At 5, you got the Mercury going to LA, just flipping it, I guess, from tonight. That's a 5 o'clock start. Also, the Aces are at Seattle at 5, and at 7:30, Minnesota takes on Golden State, the host Valkyries. Again, that's a 7:30 start. Check your local listings. Hopefully you can see those somewhere, but we got nothing. 5 o'clock, the Nashville Cats travel to Corpus Christi, taking on the Tritons in AF1 play. And at 6 o'clock, you can see it on Amazon Prime. It's the Cracker Barrel 400 from right here in Middle Tennessee. So be sure and check that out. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes your rundown. Story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options, available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And we continue to discuss adjusting formats for the college football playoffs. Apparently, members of the Southeastern Conference are not satisfied with a guarantee of 4 playoff spots going forward. It seems as if that league would like to see 5 automatic qualifiers and then just 11 at-larges coming from wherever they come from. there had been a 4-4-2-2-1 model that was being pitched that would give the Big Ten and the SEC each 4 qualifiers, the Atlantic Coast Conference and the Big 12 2 each, and then that one is what, the group of 5, the best group of 5 team, and then you would get what, 4, 8, 10, 12, 13, I guess 3 at larges after that. So obviously the SEC feels like they are worthy of more than 4 college football playoff squads.
I mean, you certainly can make that case. Hadn't panned out for them the last couple of seasons as far as actually hoisting the trophy at the end. But yeah, they've got some teams that certainly can, and in more years than not, make that run. I mean, this is just another gobble, right, from the Big Ten, from the SEC. I mean, we just continue to kind of march towards what really, I mean, it's an odd parallel, but we're really basically trending right toward what the Europe does with their soccer in the Champions League. I mean, it is haves and have-nots, and we can shine it up however we like every single year. And, we'll throw a bone to an Army, or we'll throw a bone to a Boise State here and there just to kind of make us feel good. But we're inevitably headed toward these 2 super leagues. It'll be, you can get creative with the name, the SEC Big Ten Invitational, however you want to phrase it, but that's really kind of where it feels like this is ultimately heading.
It's tough. I mean, we talk so much in sports about team players, but it doesn't look like the Southeastern Conference is really leaning toward being a team player in this situation at all. It's all about us. And, I guess maybe it does go back to it just means more. I don't know, but it's kind of tough to watch objectively, I think. I mean, to your point, there are probably times when there are 5 teams that maybe deserve to be in a 16-team playoff or more, but that's not going to be every year, is it?
It's not going to be every year, but the SEC and the Big Ten in particular have done such a great job of convincing you that they are the best teams. So why would you even bother giving someone else a look or giving somebody else a sniff or a bone? And then if you do, they run up against, a tough team, and maybe they lose. And, well, we told you so. I mean, the fact we saw Arizona State take Texas to overtime, if that game ends just a little bit differently, who knows? Maybe we have a little bit more credence here today. But yeah, the SEC and the Big Ten both have done such a great job, and they have dominated the sport. I mean, just absolutely ran roughshod over the rest of the country. So whether it's a convincing act or not, everybody kind of believes it. So I don't know that we should really be surprised by this, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't guess we should be surprised by it. I think you're right as far as that goes, but it is.
And if you're a fan of these leagues, right? I mean, you want because it is so tough in the Big Ten, in the SEC, it is so tough just to even get through to the other side. Mm-hmm. If you are that 5th team, I mean, you rightly or wrongly feel like you can maybe win it all just based on how tough those leagues are. So why would you not want your shot if your commissioner's not kind of advocating for you? I think SEC fans would be up in arms if Sankey was not kind of, gobbling up as much as he could, perhaps, for his particular league.
As the discussion of this situation has taken place on socials and the like over the past bit, is this all about Alabama not getting in last year?
You can maybe spin it that if you wanted to. It just feels like a little bit of inevitability, and things played out almost so perfectly last year. We had so many great storylines. We saw Army really kind of marching all the way right there to the death with a chance to maybe get in. And like I mentioned, Arizona State, even though they are in a different conference, you kind of still view, if you're not SEC, if you're not Big Ten, you basically are a mid-major to a lot of the rest of the country. We saw them make that magical run, and man, it just feels like in the blink of an eye, that suddenly wasn't good enough. And I don't know if it was Alabama, but it just felt like if it wasn't Alabama, it would have been insert SEC school here at this point.
Right. And
to me, at least.
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good read on the situation. It just, man, it's tough to watch for me. Just, I mean, there is really it's never enough type feel to it. And maybe I'm feeling that because that's the way it is. Maybe it's just never going to be enough, no matter how much, until the SEC gets half of their 16 teams in.
This country's had a long-standing reputation of that mantra, so we shouldn't really be surprised that it's trickled down to college football, right?
Man, you do have a way.
Capitalism at its finest, and that's the other thing I was going to make too. The stakes are too high for the commissioners of the SEC and the Big Ten for them not to grab as much and kind of shuffle the deck in their favor, not just now, but going forward, because the stakes are so high in terms of these television deals. If somehow, I mean, we'd be talking about a fumble of all fumbles if 10 years from now, the SEC or Big Ten were still not in the position that they're in, kind of ruling and calling the shots. It would be a massive. We talk about, I mean, the Pac-12 doesn't even exist anymore, and the Big 12, is kind of a laughing stock to a lot of the rest of the country. So, I mean, if they were to not do this, we would really be kind of laughing in about 10 years. We should not be surprised, I don't think.
Yeah, and to your point, I don't know how either the Big 12 or the Atlantic Coast Conference really get their foot in the door of that meeting room that the Big Ten and the SEC currently occupy to themselves at this point. I don't know what it takes for them to get their market share back as far as that goes, which has got to be really frustrating for them.
Absolutely. And I mean, North Carolina is trying a unique approach. I'll say that much in terms of buying some credibility there. Shout out to Jordan, trying to get her way in there and kind of, but I mean, the fact that I didn't even mention the ACC, I mean, outside of Clemson, 2 years ago, we're talking about Florida State going into the last week of the season, undefeated and looking great. I mean, if you want to go for a sliding doors moment with Alabama getting left out, imagine if Florida State goes on a magical run and wins the title that year. It's so fascinating how quick we are to react, and in this case, perhaps overreact to one season. But that's going to be the norm. And the SEC and Big Ten would be doing their fans, their schools, and presidents and boosters a disservice if they didn't kind of go for this. It's icky for all of us, but I get why they're doing it.
It is.
And the games will still be epic. I mean, you're not going to tune in to a 24-21 Arkansas versus Iowa game. I mean, when it's the only college football playoff game on, or, the SEC would argue, would you rather see that, or would you rather see Arkansas 60 and, UTEP 20 or UTEP 0? I mean, the optics favor them so heavily. There are great games, and there have been great games with teams that are outside of household consideration. But the SEC and Big Ten, they've got the good spin doctors on their side, and they are convincing and have convinced us that they're the only two leagues that matter.
They really do. And I guess winning is a heck of a PR tactic as well. So
that goes a long way.
Yeah. Hey, let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as we continue the weekend warm-up. When we come back, we will be joined by Ben Arthur of NFL on Fox, talking a little pro football. They know how many teams they're taking and where they're coming from to the postseason. Now, will the Titans be one of them? Stay tuned.
Get ready, race fans. NASCAR is back in Music City with a new name, the Cracker Barrel 400. Guitars, fast cars, and the comfort of Cracker Barrel's country hospitality. May 30th through June 1st. The action kicks off Friday night at Nashville Superspeedway with the Rackley Roofing 200. Then the Tennessee Lottery 250 on Saturday. And Sunday night, NASCAR's top stars under the lights in the Cracker Barrel 400. Get your tickets now at NashvilleSuperspeedway.com.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need...
Hold on, y'all. Hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
3,
Busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
I'm ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
The weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and we now have with us from NFL on Fox, covers the AFC South. It's Ben Arthur. Ben, what's up?
How you doing, guys? Good to see you.
What's up, Ben?
You too, man. You've been living out at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park the last little bit, or what's been going on with you?
Well, not really. I mean, they've only given us like 1 day of availability a week. So, I mean, we had OTAs this past week, so it was the first open one, and then the next one isn't until Tuesday. So it's really that they're definitely kind of spreading it out. We don't get to just live there, at least for right now, but they'll have to let us in at during training camp. So.
I like that. They'll have to let us in. They'll have no choice. What from the limited availability that you have gotten, who've you had a chance to spend some time with, and what are they saying as they head toward 25 and try to put the bad taste of a 3-14 finish out of everybody's mind?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, at this point, we've heard from a lot of new guys, so they obviously don't have the context of last season, right? Like they're coming in like free agents, whether it's Cody Barton, who spoke earlier this week, Dan Moore, their new left tackle. It was actually our first time speaking to him this past week, even though they're giving him like 20-something million a year. The new safety, I'm spacing on his name at the moment, Xavier Woods, who's going to be playing alongside Amani Hooker in the back end. We spoke with him. So it's kind of what you would expect at this time of the year, right? Just talking about the vibes, kind of what Brian Callahan is trying to do from a culture standpoint. I will say, though, from the returners we have spoken to, like I think Tony Pollard is actually the one who told us this about just kind of some of the changes that they've made, like with the locker room, for instance. Instead of just being bunched by position, there's a lot of mixing and matching. So a running back will be next to like a corner and a linebacker, or the quarterback next to a punter, or whatever. There's been a lot of mixing and matching, and there's been a huge emphasis on the bonding part of it, the relationship building part of it. And I know Calvin Ridley, that this wasn't with the local media, but I think it was at some kind of event, him just talking about that, like just the best teams he's seen as have been the ones who are the closest off the field. Like it's not just a come to work type thing, and then you don't really connect with anyone outside the building. It seems like there's a concerted effort, and Brian Callahan has talked about that. There is a concerted effort to really build those relationships off the field at this time of the year, and they've actually split up the team into 8 different teams. So they're offense, defense, special teams guys on those 8 teams, and they're all kind of their own squad, so to speak, where they're kind of gunning for points. No one has been able to tell us what the end is, like what they get if they win, or like come in first, or if you come in last place, what happens to you. That they just know to avoid getting in last place. So that's I mean, that's always good to hear. But yeah, to answer your question, Mo, I think that's kind of where it's been at to this point. I mean, we've talked to a mix of new guys and old guys, but then I think we have started to see just some of the differences in terms of how the team is getting acclimated at this point of the year compared to Brian Callahan's first year.
Speaking of Callahan, has he said anything, or have you taken anything away? How does he approach taking the good, what little there was, and taking the bad, and kind of trying to find his way as he enters year 2 as a head coach? What have you heard there, or what's your read?
Yeah, I think going off my previous point too, I think that's one thing he has learned just from what happened last year, that just the relationship component of it being so important. So I think that's why we have seen the changes that have already been implemented. I know he's talked about being involved with the defense more this year. He felt like it was just kind of, I wouldn't say exclusively, but just predominantly with the offense, right? Obviously, he was the offensive play caller, an offensive-minded head coach, but he has realized that he does need to be more visible to the defensive guys. And so I think even in the couple practices we've seen between OTAs and then the rookie minicamp, that he's bounced around more than I remember him doing last year. And then I think just in terms of how they're handling the quarterback position, in terms of last year, just everyone knew right off the bat that Will Levis was the guy. There was no sense of a competition, so to speak. And I think Brian Callahan, Nick Holz, the whole kind of offensive coaching staff has kind of looked at maybe how they didn't maybe always give the quarterback the best opportunity to be at his best, just because of maybe things were getting handed to him, or they didn't present as much of a challenge in the lead up to the season, to where once that season hits, that the quarterback can flourish. And so now with Cam Ward coming in, we've heard no word of Cam Ward already being the number one guy, or they're catering everything to him. The way they've communicated, it's like, okay, everyone is sharing and splitting reps, and don't read too much into the rep splits at this point, because it has kind of been all over the place. I mean, Will may start one drill, or it may be Kyle Allen for another drill, or Cam may get the most of the reps in the particular drill. But it's kind of, I think, how to handle the quarterback position and the importance of that, I think is something I've already started to see. And obviously in Callahan's case, like he does know what that experience is like in terms of bringing in a number 1 overall pick quarterback in, just in terms of what he had with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. And I think he's able to bring in some of those things that he learned from that experience to Nashville too.
Ben Arthur of NFL on Fox joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as we talk a little Tennessee Titans. Y'all had some availability with Levis earlier this week, and some of his comments tended to jump out at a few folks. I think there was one in particular. Let me see if I can get it right. I think anyone who's ever been in that situation can agree that it sucks. I'm just trying to do everything I can to not let it affect me, and just being the same dude every day in the building, and being here for the guys however I can, and just trying to get better every day. It feels like that was in the context of having been QB1, and now, having that status pretty much on the verge of changing, if it hasn't already. What is the vibe around Will Levis? I'm not so concerned about Will Levis's vibe, but is there enough of this guy, or what is the vibe around Will as he comes into this camp? In all likelihood, not the starter. I mean, I don't know what the fan reaction would be if he ran out there in the opening game of the series and took the first snap of the game. But I mean, what is the vibe around him?
I'd say that the Titans, at least, I mean, they've spoken glowingly of the work he's done to kind of get himself ready for this season, uh, taking kind of the coaching and the things, the very specific things that they wanted him to work on in the offseason. According to Brian Callahan and Nick Coles, like he's really done that. I mean, he worked, I think it was in California with a well-known quarterback coach to tweak some of those things. And from everything we've heard, that he's done everything that's been asked of him. And in terms of entering this room that now features Cam Ward, he's done kind of the right things and just focusing on kind of what he needs to work on. And then it seems like that there is no tension. Obviously, we're not in the building, but from what we've heard, there is no like tension between Levis and Cam Ward. Cam even said that Will was one of the first people to just come up to him and welcome him to the team. And the quarterbacks have done their own thing, like a dinner or whatever. And so there doesn't really seem to me to be much of an awkwardness. And if you're Will Levis, I mean, kind of just keep doing what you're doing, regardless of if your future is with the Titans or elsewhere, as long as you do what you have to do, like whether it's in preseason, right, where a team maybe has a quarterback injury. I mean, that's an opportunity for you. So regardless of if he has to be the backup to Cam, and has to wait for his opportunity to play, or balls out during training camp and joint practices, whatever they do, and in preseason, and there's a quarterback job that opens up and a team wants him. I mean, that's how Will Levis has to look at it. And I think he is. I mean, he even mentioned that regardless of what this situation is, my mindset hasn't changed. And that was in response to a question about if he'd be okay being the backup, and he's not looking at himself as a backup. And I think that's the right way to look at it. He's not just gonna be like, oh, I'm just like a number 2 or a number 3 now. Just like keep looking at the game the same way you always have and do what needs to be done with the reps you do have. And then that opportunity could come maybe sooner than we all think. So I'd say the vibe has been pretty normal. I mean, we haven't seen any tension or bad blood, or whether it's from from what the players or coaches are saying, or from what Will Levis has shown from a body language standpoint. I think it's been pretty smooth to this point.
Okay. Everything about Cam Ward has just continued to bear out the Titans' confidence in him to make him the number 1 pick overall, I guess, right?
I'd say so. He's this past week, the first open OTA they had. I mean, this was our first time seeing him with the other veterans. Like we just saw him with the rookies, and so you have to kind of take that with a grain of salt. But with the veterans, I mean, he, getting the ball into tight windows, I mean, that stood out immediately. Like he had numerous throws where he just seemed to kind of thread the ball between kind of several defenders to get it to his guy in the middle of the field. And I think that was cool to see, because the previous day, which wasn't open to the media, Nick Coles, the OC, was talking about how like there was, I guess, a similar type of situations where the ball didn't necessarily get there. So I think already in a couple of days, the Titans are already seeing just maybe the growth from day to day that you would hope. He seems to be taking everything in. The players seem to be reacting well to him. He's just kind of being himself. I mean, was everything perfect? No. I mean, during the team period, I mean, I think his first 3 or 4 passes were broken up. And there's another where the protection didn't do him any favor, and there was like a nickel blitz, and it just kind of disrupted everything. So I mean, not everything's perfect. There's also an exchange with the center that was fumbled too during the team period. So there's going to be some growing pains, right? But in terms of like the day-to-day incremental progress, Cam has been showing that, and you could just kind of see the difference between him and the other quarterbacks. I mean, the effortlessness that he seems to throw with. And I mean, he can throw a heater too, but it doesn't seem like it's uncatchable too. It seems like there's heat to it, but there's an element of touch to it that I don't think we always see that with guys who have cannons of an arm. I mean, sometimes it's just these heat-seeking missiles that hit guys in the hands. But it seems like with Cam, there is somewhat of a balance there too. And so, yeah, I'd say all in all so far. And again, I think it's only been 2 or 3 maybe practices we've seen, but I'd say it's been a steady progress to this point.
You mentioned him and Levis kind of hitting it off. Does it feel like he has already kind of earned a little bit of trust, earned a little bit of confidence in the locker room, just kind of with everything else he's brought to the table? Seems like he's been out at practice early, one of the first guys there, and kind of bringing the juice from the start, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, that's so important, right? Just how you move, how you carry yourself, and just doing your job, right? Like, no one is expecting him to be like the leader right off the bat. I mean, the biggest thing for him is knowing just the operation. Can you get the play call in? Do you have that confidence when you're in the huddle? Like, do you know the play call? Do you know what you're doing out there? And it seems like he's kind of hitting all those things to that point. I mean, the leadership stuff and everything else that's comes with being the number 1 pick, that will need to come, right? I mean, that's why you invested in him. But in terms of, it's still so early, right? We're still in May. So I think it's just, are you getting the playbook? Are you, breaking down the huddle? Are you getting the play call across? Are you watching the film? Are you just all the little things? I think he's, from everyone we've talked to, I mean, he seems to be doing all that. And I mean, what Nick Coles was saying, that he's there earlier than some of the coaches, which is, I think that's a really great thing as a rookie quarterback coming in, where you're already getting in at 5 a.m. I mean, that's I'd say that's a good sign.
No doubt. Ben Arthur of NFL on Fox joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Ben, as you said, it is still May. Hope does still spring eternal. And speaking in glowing terms, we've heard some positives regarding Traylon Burks. We've heard some positives regarding Van Jefferson, and that was a signing that was kind of received mixed reviews, I guess. And Traylon obviously has had his injury situations and hasn't been nearly as impactful as had been hoped when he came into the organization. What are you hearing? What are you seeing out of those 2 guys in particular in the receiver corps?
Yeah, I think, to start with Van, I mean, he's going to be important for this team, right? As a veteran receiver, helping Cam Ward understand like what a receiver expects. I mean, him and Tyler Lockett both kind of fill that role, but he's going to be huge in that regard too. And he's a guy, even though he's an older guy, he still has a lot of speed. I don't remember the 40 he ran back in the day, but he still has a lot of speed. And I think if the Titans can get any of what he had when he was with the Rams a couple years ago, when they went to the Super Bowl, I mean, that was Van Jefferson at his best. And I think they can maybe get a little bit of that out of him in this offense. And so I know Brian Callahan has talked about like just, or Nick Coles, maybe both of them have kind of talked about that dependability. Like, he knows what he's supposed to do. He's where he's where he's supposed to be. I mean, some of those things that you'd hear of Nick Westbrook-Akina, you're already starting to kind of hear some of those things, which is, I think, a good sign. And then with Traylon Burks, it's just getting healthy at this point. I think it was a really good sign to even see him on the field at all at OTAs. No one was really expecting that. We weren't expecting to see him till training camp with that torn ACL, but to see him even just go through some of the individual drills, you can tell he's not 100%, but just to see him at a point to where he could even be out there, I think it's huge. And look, at this point with Traylon, like, no one really expects much from him just because of what has happened. But anything that he can give them, it would be a a major plus. I mean, I think their receiver core is kind of, well, I don't want to say it's intact, but you kind of know who the main contributors are probably going to be, and anything he can add on top of that, I mean, that's going to be huge. And with the Titans not picking up his 5th year, I don't know if that's official or not, but it's going to be his contract year. So whatever he can get, whatever he can get out of him in this situation would be a positive. So
Yeah. Kind of rattles me when you refer to Van Jefferson being an older guy, since I know I covered him in high school, and it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. He's 28. Ben, ease up. But hey, we've heard about JC Latham kind of reconfiguring himself physically, dropping some poundage, still trying to drop some. What impact is expected from that as he shifts from left tackle to right tackle?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, I think right tackle is more natural to him. We obviously saw him have a lot of success at that position at Alabama. And so I think even though it's a change from his rookie year, there's already comfort in that. I mean, there's some new different techniques he has to do with Bill Callahan, but I think that really helps for one. And he knows he's been elite at right tackle in the past. And then with the losing weight, I mean, being quicker on his feet, being able to react faster to things, feeling a bit more athletic. I mean, all those are things he said when he spoke to us the other day, and he said that, like, towards the end of the year, the weight really started to kind of pick up, and he wasn't maybe playing at the level that he knew he was capable of, and he was maybe able to get away with that at Alabama. But in the NFL, you can't really get away with those same things. And so I think it was cool for him to kind of have that self-awareness and then get with the coaching staff and the nutritionist and really figure out a diet that works for him. And he looks great. I mean, and he doesn't have he cut his hair too, doesn't have the dreads anymore. Like, it's just a kind of a transformation for JC a little bit. And I think it'll be good for him. And I think, I mean, they're just so much more solid at the tackle spot now, with JC going to right, and then Dan Moore, who's been a multi-year starter at left tackle. I think they're in pretty good shape up front. So
what else are you hearing around the AFC South? Obviously, we know about the loss of Jim Irsay in Indy, which is a seismic loss in the NFL, really, but also the QB controversy has already cranked up. Give us chatter from Indy, and then maybe the rest of the division as well.
Yeah, I think with Indy, as you said, it has been mainly Jim Irsay chatter. So I mean, and I haven't been to Indy since the offseason program started, so I can't necessarily speak to what's happened on the ground. But I mean, this is going to be a competition that goes throughout training camp, like between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, and really seeing kind of how that shakes out. Like, who can be the most consistent guy? I mean, both of them obviously high first round picks who've had their issues, and with Anthony's case being just the issues he's had between not only the injuries, but the accuracy issues and consistency issues, and then the benching he had. I think it's not a situation where we're really going to have clarity until August, to be honest. So I think that's kind of what the situation is with the Colts. I think apart from quarterback, and quarterback is a big thing you have to figure out, but I mean, their run game looks great. They have some good weapons between Tyler Warren and Josh Downs, Michael Pittman Jr., and then their defense has got a lot better, I think. So I think if they can get the play they need out of the quarterback position, I think they'll be good. Texans, yeah, I don't know about the Texans. I mean, they're still the team to beat, but I still have a lot of concerns about that offensive line, and we won't really know until pads go on, like what that is going to look like. But just on paper, it just feels very underwhelming for having to we knew they were going to make over their offensive line, but to look the way it does right now, I just expected something different. I could be proven wrong, and they have a new OC. They could figure it out, but I think that's the biggest question mark for them, because you know what CJ is. They have some good receivers, and their defense is Super Bowl caliber, to be honest. So I think the offensive line is what needs to be figured out with them. And then with Jacksonville, I mean, it's all kind of about Travis Hunter right now and how he's coming along. I mean, still at this point, he's predominantly been on offense because that's been that's their more complicated system. So that's kind of an ongoing project with that. But I think I said this the last time I was on the show, but I mean, I think their offense could be, pretty good. I mean, I don't know about their defense. I still have a lot of questions about their defense, but I think scoring wise, I think the Jags could be in good shape. So I guess we'll kind of see how that shakes out.
Ben Arthur, you can find him at Ben Y Arthur on Twitter. He covers the NFL for Fox Sports, and he's been with us. Ben, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon, and look forward to catching up with you again here soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you, Ben.
Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we continue the weekend warm-up, we'll talk a little pro baseball. Stick around.
If you want the latest in weather conditions, be sure to tune in to our Busy Bee Plumbing weather report each weekday on Mornings on Main Street. Brought to you, of course, by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating and Air Conditioning. We will keep you updated on the latest conditions outside, like severe weather, heat, snow, rain, and even hail.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
In 1956, Bobby Thompson clouded a pair of home runs in each end of a doubleheader as the Milwaukee Braves split the twin bill with the host Chicago Cubs. Hank Aaron and Eddie Matthews each went deep in each game, as well as the Braves bounced back for an 11-9 victory in the late contest after dropping the opener 10-9. Thompson drove in 7 of Milwaukee's 20 runs on the day, 5 in the win. That was this day in Braves history. And I had to stop myself from using nightcap because there were no lights at Wrigley Field. Both of these were day games. I don't know what time they started, the early one. But,
get it going early, baby.
There you go. Let's play 2, as Ernie Banks would say. Speaking of doubleheaders, Braves picked up a 9-3 win over Philadelphia in the nightcap last night after losing the opener 5-4 in a doubleheader that was necessitated by Wednesday's rain out. We talked a little bit about that 5-4 game on yesterday's show, as Wade mentioned during the rundown. Again, 9-3 in the second one. Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler were everything that was advertised until the Braves broke through for 4 runs in the top of the fourth off Wheeler. Ozzie Albies and Austin Riley each homered in that win. Chris Sale, 6 innings of shutout ball, 8 strikeouts, getting to 3-3 on the year and getting that earned run average down to 3.06. Also a milestone for Chris Sale, reaching the 2,500 strikeout plateau for his career with his last strikeout and becoming the fastest pitcher to that mark in MLB history, doing so in a little over 2,100 innings. So congrats to Sale. Nobody has gotten there quicker. That's impressive, man.
Yeah, he's done very, very well. And 8 punch outs yesterday. That's now 8 games in a row with at least 8 strikeouts. Did snap a double-digit streak. He had punched out 10 versus the Red Sox and then 11 versus San Diego. But very effective. And, yeah, like you said, every bit as good in that pitcher's duel between those two potential Cy Young candidates.
Absolutely. Finished 1-2 last year, as a matter of fact. The damper, though, came in game 1. A.J. Smith-Shawver, as we mentioned, was lifted from that game and has been placed, as of now, on the 60-day injured list with an elbow issue that apparently had to be brought in the dugout to manager Brian Snitker's attention. Spencer Strider actually mentioned something to pitching coach Rick Kranitz, that AJ looked like he was kind of shaking his arm and wincing around out there for a series of pitches before the staff went out and checked on him and was told that, I felt like something popped. And that kind of upped the urgency and got him out immediately. So, I don't know how many pitches he had thrown after feeling like something popped. This is a young kid who, those are the ones that you have to protect from themselves the most, typically. And this is a kid who has really shown himself in a short period of time as being a future frontline guy for Atlanta, and hopefully this isn't much of a setback, but the fact that he's on the 60-day injured list at this point makes you feel otherwise. So we will certainly be keeping an eye on that, but that's a tough look for the top guy in the dugout to have to be told, hey, AJ might be hurt. You might want to go out there and check him out.
Yeah, tough injury for him, and he was right there neck and neck with teammate Drake Baldwin for National League Rookie of the Year awards. You would imagine that personal campaign probably goes by the wayside with this injury, but more importantly, if you're an Atlanta fan, you're obviously hoping he gets back and contribute later in the season, hopefully in some meaningful games.
Yeah, hopefully it's not terribly serious. I mean, again, it was serious enough that they chose to put him on the 60-day. So there's something there. It's just a question of how much, and I'm sure we'll figure that out here in a bit. Again, the Red Sox come into Truist Park tonight to open a series. It's a 6:15 start here, 7:15 there. Lucas Giolito, 1-1 with a 5.27 earned run average, getting the ball for the visiting Red Sox. It'll be Grant Holmes, 3-3 with a 3.68. And again, quietly has kind of solidified the back end of that starting rotation, man. He is in his year roughly in the majors, he has been quite the find for Atlanta. And so he will go out there yet again tonight. Smith-Shawver not the only player for the Braves going on the IL, coming out of yesterday's opener. I believe Stuart Fairchild, who did something to his pinky on a stolen base attempt yesterday as well, was shuffled to the IL, I do believe. So, yeah, he went on the 10-day injured list with that. Not sure if it's a break or just a sprain or what that is, but he's been placed on the IL. Braves brought up Jose Azocar, who I've never heard of, but I guess he's coming up from Gwinnett. And then they called Dylan Dodd up, and he will go to the bullpen for the Braves. So some movement with the Braves roster ahead of this game tonight against the Red Sox. Man, Houston and Tampa Bay were tied 3-3 in the 7th. And then Tampa Bay scored 10 late for a 13-3 victory, kind of slowing Houston's roll temporarily. The Astros fall to 30-26 with that loss. Tampa Bay improves to 29-27, despite home runs from Jose Altuve and Yanier Diaz. So,
yeah, like you said, it was close. Still, it wasn't.
Yeah. And for Tampa Bay, Chandler Simpson, who came up for them earlier this season, midseason call-up, thought by many to be the fastest man in baseball, stole 3 bases last night, raising his MLB total to 15, which makes him 3rd in the American League. He was sent back down to Durham as outfielder Jake Mangum was activated. He had been on the IL with a groin injury, so it'll be interesting to see how long Simpson is back down. Again, he's among the major league leaders in stolen bases, and certainly adds a jump start to any lineup. So if you're a Tampa Bay fan, you'll be keeping an eye on that. The Sounds dropped a 7-1 decision at Indianapolis, as we mentioned earlier. Carlos Rodriguez, who had been pitching really well and has been up with Milwaukee, gave up 4 runs in the first 3 innings. But Eddie Rosario for the Sounds had a couple of hits. His second straight multi-hit game for the Sounds, including a double, scored the only run in that loss last night. Those 2 teams will go at it again tonight. That's a 6:05 start there. So with that, hour number 1 here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, comes to a close. When we come back for hour number 2, we'll get into the grab bag here on the weekend warm-up edition. Stay tuned. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
It's hour number 2 of the weekend warm-up here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. This is the grab bag. You know, we had Marin Angus Combs from Softball on SI on yesterday to talk about the Women's College World Series that cranked up yesterday out in Oklahoma City. Texas opening things up with a 3-0 win over Southeastern Conference rival Florida. But that second game that was on as we were speaking with Marin, 4-time defending national titleist Oklahoma and the University of Tennessee going at it. And, well, to steal a phrase from Wade, UT was in charge until they weren't. But let's revisit some of yesterday's conversation with Marin real quick.
I mean, once Tennessee beats Oklahoma, I'm sure I'm gonna hear something.
You are you sound pretty confident, Marin.
That they're gonna beat Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Judging by how Oklahoma has played so far, and how Tennessee has played so far, Oklahoma's inexperience is showing. They're getting rattled easily. They're dropping pop flies in the outfield that shouldn't be dropped. They're pass balls. They just look like a team who hasn't been there before, and that's basically what they are.
Well, there you go. Well, I mean, I've not been able to watch. Obviously, I've been a little busy since 2:00. But I mean, as long as they've got that crimson and cream on, and as long as Patty Gasso is in that dugout, I kind of feel like you got to drive a stake through their heart, and they've still got what 5 outs?
Yeah,
to play with here.
It's the bottom
of the fifth. So
yeah.
I mean, they still got time. So, but
there's plenty of time for them to mount a comeback. It's also, I mean, it's Carlin Pickens. I mean, I can't say. I know Vol Twitter thinks I hate Carlin Pickens, but I really don't. It's pretty incredible to watch her throw 76, 77 miles an hour. 78, 79. She's got 80 one of these days.
it is a double elimination tournament. So, I mean, it's not like Oklahoma goes away. They've only got one less loss to work with should this 3-1 score hold up. But that 3-1 score did not hold up. 6 2/3. Tennessee was 1 out away. Runners at first and third. Ella Parker coming to the plate. Parker, probably Oklahoma's biggest power threat. You know, there was a bag open. It wasn't first base, but there was a base open. There was a freshman, one of those inexperienced players that Marin referenced, coming up behind Ella Parker. She never got to the plate because Parker hit a Carlin Pickens pitch over the center field wall for a 3-run home run. The Sooners walk off Tennessee 4-3. And for Tennessee fans who already have issues with Karen Weekly, those did not go away.
No, I can only imagine. I've not even dared to reach out to the parents who eat, sleep, and breathe, especially lady ball sports. And man, softball's the one that, that we've talked about. It's kind of there's been so many close calls, and it feels like they're right there, just haven't been able to do it. I mean, it was like a scene from Sinners last night. I mean, you have to drive a stake through Oklahoma's heart. You even said it as much yesterday on the show, and unless you do that, there's a reason they're still the champs. And, man, that delivered some high drama. Wasn't the only drama of the day, of course, but, man, that was as massive as it gets for OU. That's what makes baseball and softball so frustrating too. Simple game, and over the course of a long season, more casual than anything. But when the intensity ratchets up, there's nowhere else that is a pressure cooker of pressure cooker. And until you get that final out, until you drive that stake, they're not done. That is a gut punch for Tennessee.
It absolutely is a gut punch. I mean, I sat here watching it after we went off the air yesterday, and my first thought is, how do you come back from that if you are UT? And they have to come back quickly. They've got Florida at 6 o'clock in a win or go home situation. Again, we were figuring out seeding and whether folks should be reseeded and that kind of thing. Tennessee comes into this thing as the number 7 seed and faced with going 2 in barbecue here. And that would be a flame out of epic proportions, I do believe.
Yeah, it would be frustrating. It would be tough. And no one is going to take any moral victories in the fact you made it to a Elite Eight. You made it to the final site. You play against some of the absolute best. All everybody's going to remember is, holy smokes, we were 1 out from it wouldn't have obviously won the title by any stretch, but man, you would have dared to dream for sure if you were a Lady Vols fan yesterday.
Well, certainly. It would have been a win over, the team that has won the last 4 of those events. And so I think that it would have been a heck of a confidence boost, and it would have had you at 1-0 and still, kind of in the driver's seat in terms of your own destiny. And I guess you still are, but man, it just gut punch is one way to put it. Brutal is another way to put it. That's a heck of a way to lose a ball game. And again, the Lady Vols got to respond some kind of way here in a couple of hours. Will certainly be interesting to see how they do. We talked about Najari Kennedy of Texas Tech. She threw a shutout for the Lady Raiders as they knocked off Ole Miss, making its Women's College World Series debut 1-0. And then UCLA downs Oregon 4-2 in the late game.
Another walk-off homer. Yeah.
Yep.
It was a drama-filled day, man. Softball seemingly delivers every single year, no matter outside of the inevitable Oklahoma coronation at the end. Other than that, it feels like the World Series delivers. A lot of close games, a lot of drama, a lot of subplots, a lot of intrigue. Every game was a nail-biter yesterday. And, Tennessee's got Florida today. So, not only are you right, and they didn't play Florida in the regular season, if memory serves me correct. So, you have a team, an arch rival in many regards, and your backs are completely against the wall. That's about as good as it gets in terms of selling that one to your fan base tonight. That should be fun.
No doubt. Again, Florida, Tennessee at 6 o'clock. The late game will be Ole Miss and Oregon in another elimination game. From Lewiston, Idaho, history has been made. LSU Shreveport 14, Hope International 4 in yesterday's NAIA World Series action. The Shreveport Pilots 58-0, breaking the college baseball record at all levels for consecutive victories. Previous record holder was Howard, Texas, which is a junior college. They had 57 straight. Again, LSU Shreveport with that win is 58-0. They will play at 5:30 our time against Southeastern out of Florida with the NAIA national title and 59-0 at stake.
Man, that's as big as it gets, right? One game for basically perfection and immortality. No one wants to even think about what might happen. But the crazy as it is, you can still win this thing with one loss on your season. And honestly, I want to see the perfect record, but also deep down, part of me wants to see how they would respond. It would be equally as cool, in my opinion, if they did drop the first one and then somehow still won the whole title. But yes, unbelievable. And when you start getting in the weeds of, Division II, D3, NAI, and JUCO, there's really only one way to kind of stake your claim, and that's just to literally say we're the best across all divisions. And the fact that you can now hoist that kind of moniker is massive, right? I mean, you're not going to say, well, what division was LSU? It doesn't matter. We have the longest winning streak of anybody. Just any college exists. I think that part is pretty unique. But yes, I will be fascinated to see how tonight plays out.
Absolutely. I mean, you certainly would not look down your nose at 59-1 if it was to go that way. But man, 59-0 is, we talked to
it's the closest thing to sports immortality, right?
Yeah. I mean, we talked to Richie Eastep with Columbia Academy yesterday, and he was talking about telling his guys leave a legacy. I think 59-0 would pretty well accomplish that for LSU Shreveport if they were able to pull that off. So, again, later on this afternoon, they go for immortality. NCAA baseball action. Tournament play at the regional level has began today. East Carolina smacked Florida in the Conway Regional over at Coastal Carolina. That was an 11-2 final for the Pirates there. Vanderbilt will play Wright State at 5 o'clock. Also, Tennessee will play Miami of Ohio at 5 o'clock. I'm trying to get some finals. East Tennessee State and Louisville are playing right now down at Hawkins Field. North Carolina defeated Holy Cross 4-0. Again, I'm sorry. East Carolina defeated Florida 11-6. Florida scored late. Those seem to be the only finals that we have at this point. I guess everybody else started a little later. So we've got a full slate of games currently going on, though. So it's going to be a big weekend.
Couple in the books, but about 12 underway right now. And I'm keeping my eyes on that East Carolina team. I don't know, man, you would think just household name, right? Coastal Carolina obviously somewhat speaks for itself, but Florida for sure. You get that win out of the way early. Maybe East Carolina sneaks around the chicken coop a little bit. Maybe it'll be an all Carolina affair for that regional. It'll be fun. You mentioned, are you going to end up going to Vanderbilt this weekend? You had talked about that with Heather earlier in the week. I need pics of you two rubbing elbows together, if so.
I am going to run out of here as soon as we get done with this show and try to get down there for the start of Vanderbilt and Wright State.
You need ETSU to make a comeback, not only for Heather's sake, but also maybe give you a little extra time on the roadways there.
There we go.
A little free baseball. Some folks, don't like the games going long, but in this case, it would work to your advantage. One other score to keep our eyes on: Florida State is tied with Bethune-Cookman 2-2. It looks like still early. Arkansas was tied up 2-2 with North Dakota State, but they've kind of pulled ahead 4-2. So, if every single year, no matter how the regional ends up, there are always it feels like. Maybe not 1 versus 4s, but the 2-3 games, we see the 3s grab the 2s. And who knows, like I said, how these regionals eventually end up. But I think we'll see our fair share of upsets today.
And without question, I'm not even sure 2-3 is an upset necessarily. Nah. But you see a bunch of lower seeds pick up wins on this day in particular and kind of throw a little monkey wrench into things. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. We got a finalist. Well, I guess now the NHL finals are set, Wade, as Edmonton defeated Dallas 6-3 in the Western Conference Finals last night, finishing off that series. The Oilers will advance with the gentleman's sweep 4-1 over the Stars.
Yeah, Edmonton just seemingly has found a new gear after not sleepwalking, but kind of just going through the motions. Maybe it's a little bit of health, but they seem to be clicking on all cylinders. This was an interesting game. I ended up in our Pulaski Citizen photographer, UT Southern colleague, and, well, Canadian, Guy Schaefer. I went to the Big Guns, brought him over to the house. We watched the game. By the time Guy arrived, it was already 2-0 in favor of Edmonton. By the time he sat down on the couch, it was 3-0. Credit for Dallas for battling back. They got it to a single goal on 2 different occasions, but every time when they made it 3-2, Connor McDavid answers right back with an early goal about 90 seconds later. When they made it 4-3, Evander Kane kind of answered right back about 2.5 minutes later. So every time, credit to Dallas for at least showing the backbone to pick themselves up off the mat. But, man, they could not get it done. And Edmonton and Florida, a third straight Stanley Cup Finals, winning last year in that crazy near collapse, blowing a 3-0 lead. It'll be fun when they get cracking next Wednesday.
Yeah, these two obviously know each other, having just met in last year's Stanley Cup Final. And to your point, Edmonton getting off the mat after trailing 3-0. Excuse me. Do we get more of that this time around, do you think?
I'm not sure yet. I'm kind of going to withhold my prediction, I guess, till next week because, man, it feels like Florida has certainly found a new gear. Once they got Kachuk back, they just morphed into this juggernaut that maybe they were already, but when his absence right after the Four Nations, they kind of hit a bit of a wall. So I'll be fascinated to see. I think Hyman was out for Edmonton last night. There's some questions about his availability. If these teams are at full strength, I don't know who wins, but I do think it will be electric. Edmonton has home ice, so the first couple of games will be up there at the Rogers Center, and so bank on an entertaining series. We can only hope and dream of what we got last year.
This thing doesn't start till Wednesday. So between the Stanley Cup starting Wednesday and the NBA Finals start Thursday, is that right?
Yep.
Man, got to find something to do for the next few days.
That's why everybody was rooting for the Knicks last night. We got a free game out of it. We get one on Saturday night because otherwise, it would have been a long little drought between Wednesday and Thursday.
Absolutely. One guy who's not concerned about the drought will be joining us when we come back from this break because he knows his team is going to be playing Thursday night, just doesn't know who. When we come back here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll be joined by LANDEN SECREST, talking a little pro hoops. Stick around.
Get ready, race fans. NASCAR is back in Music City with a new name, the Cracker Barrel 400. Guitars, fast cars, and the comfort of Cracker Barrel's country hospitality. May 30th through June 1st. The action kicks off Friday night at Nashville Super Speedway with the Rackley Roofing 200. Then the Tennessee Lottery 250 on Saturday. And Sunday night, NASCAR's top stars under the lights in the Cracker Barrel 400. Get your tickets now at NashvilleSuperspeedway.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
The weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton, and visiting with us now is maybe the only Oklahoma City Thunder fan I know, Landon SECREST, who is sitting in the catbird seat right now, as we mentioned in the last segment, waiting on his Thunder to find out who they are playing, thanks to the Knicks' last gasp effort last night, 111-94 to extend the Eastern Conference Finals to a Game 6. But Landon, good afternoon.
Hey Mo, hey Wade, how are you guys?
We're doing well, man.
We're good. Hey, but real quick, Landon, we didn't see any of these jerseys and we didn't see any of this garb. Landon has come on this show for the last year and a half and been all buttoned up, and he's let us know he's a fan, but he hadn't really just kind of flaunted it in our faces till they start making the NBA Finals. Just wanted to point that out.
It's funny how that goes, huh?
I don't know if that's exactly true, Wade. I don't know if that's exactly true.
We knew he was a fan, but I do kind of. I'm kind of digging that backdrop. Hey, how does one become? I'm always interested in how folks' fandom develops. How does one become an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, Landon? From Nashville.
Well, it's an interesting story for me because I was raised in a Celtics household. My dad was a Celtics fan. So that was kind of my team when I was, didn't know what the sport really was. I was just watching Celtics games by default because that was what was on TV. But then around that middle school or so age, I started to adopt my own fandom. My favorite player was Kevin Durant. Anybody that knows me and went to school with me knows I was, and still am, the biggest Kevin Durant fan, despite him not playing for the Thunder anymore. And I just decided to stick with him, although I was heartbroken 4th of July 2016 when he left. I said, I'm not going to switch on the Thunder. I'm going to stay and stick it out. And it seems to be paying off right now. So
now, were you a Kevin Durant fan going back to Texas or once he got to the league?
Once he got to the league, one of my bigger cousins, he was actually a very big Kevin Durant fan. So I was watching a lot of the games in the early, even the Supersonics days back when they moved from there. I always saw a tall, lanky guy wearing 35, and I had no idea who it was at that time. But then when I really started to understand the game and figure out what the NBA actually was, I was like, hey, I'm going to like this team. I like this guy. He's my favorite player.
Obviously, it's been a while since he's been there. You've stuck with it, and like you said, it's paying off. They don't necessarily have a Durant-like guy on this team. I mean, obviously, SGA is their linchpin, but he kind of goes about his business in a different way, does he not?
Yeah, I think, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is one of the best players I've ever seen, and my young career of watching sports at the level that I do, at getting to his spots. I mean, will get 8 to 10 to 15 points off of that mid-range every night. And I think that's what makes him so great. Ultimately made him the MVP. I know there's a lot of negative discourse around his play style, but I'm still biased until, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander finishes the deal and collects all of the accolades. I'm not ready to say he's the greatest Thunder player ever because I know what I saw when I was growing up and the level that Kevin Durant was winning scoring titles and, obviously getting to the NBA Finals, winning that MVP. I mean, he was the best thing I saw. So I'm not ready to crown SGA yet, but I think, this team is solid. They definitely do win in a different way. There's a lot more depth to this current team.
They've kind of just taken names really with everybody in this postseason. Even in the series that goes 7 versus Denver, a few of the OKC wins were just bloodbaths. So I'm curious, Landon, after following the team for so long, and we've kind of, Mo and I've referenced it a couple times this week, feels like we've kind of grown up with this team the last 3 to 4 years, seeing them take the next step. But after kind of falling flat last year, what have you maybe noticed? What is different about this year's team compared to last year's that kind of underachieved in the postseason?
I think a lot of the success this year comes down to really role defining on an NBA team. People obviously are talented at the NBA level. Everybody 1 through 5, 1 through 10 can play basketball at a very high level. But when you're on a team that wants to have championship aspirations, you need to have a Batman, you need to have a Robin, and you need to understand that those two players are such. I think this year's team, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, is definitely the lead dog. And then when you look at 2 and 3, it kind of alternates, but I would say that Jalen Williams is the 2 and Chet Holmgren is the 3. But they understand that it's their turn when it's their turn. But this is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's team, and everybody kind of feeds off of that. I sometimes even get frustrated myself watching him because I feel like he's not being aggressive as the number one option on the team. He wants to get everybody else involved, and it's like, you're the man on this team. Sometimes he doesn't even realize it until later in games. But when he can get to his spot and he can establish that, hey, this is my Thunder squad, I'm the lead dog, it's really scary.
You channeling the Rock over there, know your role. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know that anybody would necessarily argue that SGA is the lead dog. Now, again, to your point about 2 and 3, but more importantly, in a game where you have so many alphas, being able to relegate yourself and know that you're not the number 1 or the 2 or the 3, that takes a lot, does it not?
Yeah, I definitely think so. When you look at speaking to the depth of this current 2025 team, I mean, you've got guys like Cason Wallace in his young career who is clearly going to be a great player, impacting on offense and defense. I mean, he's all over the court. Then you got an experienced player like Alex Caruso coming off the bench, not playing a lot of minutes, but he's having an impact on the court. Obviously, defensively, he's an NBA champion. He could probably be a starter on most teams just because of his veteran experience. And then you look at the other guys that get minutes here and there that are not necessarily in the rotation every game. They understand that, hey, this is going to be my game. I may not play at all. I think of Jalen Williams, Kenrich Williams, Isaiah Joe. Sometimes they don't even play, but they understand that, hey, when I get in, it's for a reason, and I need to make an impact on this game.
Landon, you mentioned Chet Holmgren a minute ago, and really for the first time, it kind of popped in my brain. So I want to ask you, with him missing so much time earlier in the year, it certainly seems like he's completely reverted to right where he was before the injury. But I'm always curious, and it seems like I'm a huge believer that sometimes when a guy goes down, that forces everybody else to step up. And is that kind of what you're insinuating a little bit there? It feels like some of those other guys, yeah, OKC was dominating and they weren't really at risk of missing the playoffs. But when you lose a guy kind of like Holmgren, did everybody else kind of, in your mind, have to step up, and did they kind of do that? And we're seeing the benefits now.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with that, Wade. You look at how much time he missed this year, and also Hartenstein missed a good amount of time. So that leaves the team without a legitimate 5-man.
Right.
You've got Jalen Williams playing a lot of minutes, and that's obviously paying a lot of benefit right now because he's getting that experience that he had in the regular season, and he can come in and there's not really much of a drop-off. Obviously, he's not the same caliber as those two players, but it forces Oklahoma City and forces Coach Daignault to experiment with some things. Jalen Williams, J-Dub, playing the 5 at the small ball, having 5 guards out on the court. That has been an effective lineup at some points in this playoffs. They probably wouldn't have done that if they weren't without both of their big men at points in the regular season.
That's what's been fascinating to me. And then you mentioned Hartenstein too. It feels like, yeah, that move in the offseason was met with some fanfare, but there was a couple possessions in that Denver series. I want to say it was game 5 where that game was really kind of teetering and kind of hanging in the balance. They had Hartenstein and Holmgren out there, and I just saw a few loose balls that Hartenstein grabbed, and I just kind of thought to myself, I don't know that anybody else gets those rebounds if he's not out there. And it's just those little differences. If they lose game 5, it feels like they lose that series. And I'm kind of curious, in your mind at least, his impact and what he's maybe brought to the team, kind of as one of those unsung heroes you kind of mentioned.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things, that you touched on earlier about what was the difference between last year and the year before's team versus this year and why they're so successful. One of the biggest weaknesses was rebounding. Obviously, we know Chet Holmgren is a large figure, but he doesn't have the really size to bang down low and grab those rebounds. That's not really an issue when Hartenstein is on the court offensively and defensively. There's a secondary person who can grab those rebounds. But also, Wade, to your point, the hustle plays. I mean, nobody's going to do the things that Hartenstein does, that Caruso does, that Cason Wallace does, Lou Dort, getting their hands on passes, affecting shots, things that don't pop up in the box score per se. Shea's going to get all the glory because of his point scoring, and Chet and Jalen Williams as well. But when you look at what the dirty work that these guys do, I think that is what makes a difference on the championship team. Real quick, too, you mentioned Dort. I mean, it kind of reminds me the Grizzlies never achieved this for a variety of reasons. But when you have a guy like Dort, an all-NBA, a first-team all-defense like the Grizzlies had with Tony Allen, I mean, can you just put into context what a massive benefit that is? Because we already know SGA, solid defender, an elite player, but it just feels like having him, any offense you get from Dort certainly feels like it's great, and he's been great in this postseason. But his defense is kind of what makes them just put a stranglehold on a lot of teams like we saw with Minnesota. Yeah, definitely. Lou Dort, his impact is really all over the court defensively. When you look at if he's the primary defender on the opposing team's best player on the perimeter, or if he's a help defender, next time you watch an Oklahoma City Thunder game, just look at Caruso and Dort in the passing lanes if they're not guarding the ball and how they shift over in the help defense. It's really something to watch because most of the times they'll get a hand or maybe a finger on the ball, and that'll lead to a steal. And it's not that they're the primary defender, but their impact is literally felt on the defensive possession.
Landon SECREST joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking little hoops. I don't know that it matters at this point, but would there be a preference in who you see between the Knicks and the Pacers? I think New York would probably be the more favorable matchup for the Thunder, just because I think the Thunder's strength is depth, and obviously that's a huge question with New York. And the reliability of the bench players, we've seen, Tibbs get a little bit more lenient into the rotation in these past couple games because he's had to, but they really only play 7 guys. Oklahoma City Thunder can play upwards of 10 realistically, which is crazy in the playoffs. But the Pacers could definitely give the Thunder problems just with their pace and no pun intended, but just with their pace and their offensive power. Although the Thunder have a great defense, I would be more excited to play the Knicks. I think we are more favorable that way. Also, the Pacers having come through the path that they have come through, and does it feel like they've been a little bit more tested at this point? Yeah, I definitely think so. And I just want to take this moment to shout out Tyrese Halliburton, because I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan, but talk about a playoff riser. With the exception of last game, obviously he would have loved to close it out there. But this guy has been hitting clutch shots, timely shots, making the right pass. And he was a talented player, but I'm always adamant about rising to the occasion when it's time. And he's definitely done that so far. So, Mo, I would say, having that experience facing those good teams and rising to the moment, that's definitely something you want headed into the finals. You sound kind of like Shaq. I wasn't familiar with your game. Almost, Mo. Not to that extent. I was familiar, but I wasn't necessarily confident in Halliburton come playoff time. So I'm wondering how much of the Pacers drop in Game 5 and having to go back to Gainbridge for Game 6, how much of that is wrapped around Halliburton's dad not being able to go to MSG last night, and I would imagine he will be on hand for the wrap-up tomorrow night. See, Mo, you're thinking like I think. I definitely think about those types of things behind the scenes. Halliburton doesn't have a great game last night, but, recently John Halliburton is allowed to come to the games in the suite level. What better to clinch it on your home court to where he can see you, possibly have a celebration moment. Obviously, as media members, that's something that we would love to see. We wouldn't have got that last night. So no, not at all. Not at all.
See, guys, I think about it a little different, though. I was thinking Adam Silver's thinking, man, that's an awful long time to have to wait between now and next Thursday for the finals. And let's do our fans a solid. Let's, I'm not saying he pushed the button for the fix, but, a little extra basketball never hurt anybody. And I will say this. I'm willing to put up with kind of the dud that we got last night, because it really was kind of a dud by the end of the game, especially. I'm willing to put up with that if we get some real compelling theater, and we might get that, obviously, win or lose, or how the game plays out with, Indiana clinching on their home court. But if somehow this thing could go to Monday at Game 7 in the Garden, I mean, that's the stuff that like we can only dare to dream of. So I'm here for it. I'll take the dud last night if it means that one of these two games will be epic.
Definitely.
Game 7 in the Garden.
I mean, Chalamet will be there. The Timbs will be unlaced. It will be electric. They were pumped last night. They were chanting, "We want Game 7" from like the opening tip, I feel like.
Yes,
I mean, it was a rabid environment, and I'm kind of fascinated. Landon, you mentioned it too. The Thunder basically rolled over both of those teams in the 4 combined meetings in the regular season. But to your point, it just feels – I'm not necessarily – terrified of the Knicks offense. I know Brunson can do some great things, and I know Towns is an elite kind of fulcrum or pivot point for him. But I just have a lot more fear thinking about the options that the Pacers could present if I'm a Thunder fan.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You know, their offensive ability, you know, the Knicks are never going to win games up into the 110s, 120s, 130s. But if Oklahoma City has to push that when the Pacers are pushing that pace and scoring and hitting threes, that could get interesting because that puts the defense, the number 1 defense in the league, in a lot of question.
So, Landon, obviously, you're an Oklahoma City fan. You're also a Belmont University graduate. If you get Pacers Thunder, you've got Thunder, but you've got Ben Shepherd. What's up?
Yeah, I have definitely been, of course, tuned in to every Pacers game this playoffs just because I want to see Ben succeed. Definitely, it'll be interesting when the Pacers, I think, will get to the NBA Finals and seeing him match up against a potential Shai Gilgeous-Alexander defensively. Because if you've been watching the Knicks series closely, Carlisle will put Shepherd in to kind of throw different looks at Brunson, and he's matching up against Brunson. I'm not going to say he's locking him up, but he's providing something that's different. Can he do that against a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander if Carlisle takes that same strategy? I'm excited to see that because I know I've seen him compete in real life at Belmont, and I know he's a talented player, can hit threes as well like he did yesterday. So I'm excited to see him on that stage. If the Pacers get that far, I would love to see him compete against my team. It's a win-win for me because I would be happy if he would win as well.
So are you close enough to Ben to hit him up for some tickets? And if you did, him knowing that you are a Thunder fan, would he hook you up?
See, I'm not even sure if he knows I'm a Thunder fan. I do know we've had a conversation.
Well, he knows now after watching this show today. It's pretty obvious with the background.
Yes, he knows. He knows, though, that I do have Celtics roots. He did tell me that his favorite player growing up was actually Rajon Rondo, and that was my first NBA jersey. So he's a Celtics fan before he was obviously playing for the Pacers now. But I don't know, Mo. To be determined there.
So in other words, if we look up and we see Landon at Gamebridge in his Thunder gear, we know what happened then, right?
Right. You're exactly right, Mo.
Landon SECREST joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Landon, when it is the Thunder and Pacers, what's the key to this one?
The key is not letting the Pacers dictate the pace of the game. Obviously, they are going to want to go fast, but when you have the number 1 defense and you have this platform of the NBA Finals, you got to control the pace of the game. Like I said, with the Knicks currently, they're not going to win games that are shootouts. And I don't necessarily think that Oklahoma City can win a game that's a shootout on a consistent basis. They do have the offensive talent, but if they're dictating the pace, Shai is in control of the game like an MVP should be. I think the Thunder would be in good shape, but if the Pacers get to running and gunning, that's trouble for Oklahoma City, I would say.
Who's one role player in your mind on a team full of role players? Who's one, and I guess this could expand to the whole roster, but the starting 5 have certainly played great. But who's one guy in your mind, Landon, for OKC that I'd like to see a little more, or better yet, I might need to see a little more if we are going to win this thing, regardless of who we play?
I think there's 2 guys that come to mind for me. The Pacers' big man situation is not necessarily consistent. They've thrown in Tony Bradley at times. He, I think, went down last night with, a hamstring injury. The backup big man, who's spelling for Chet and Hartenstein. Is it going to be Jalen Williams? Can he come in and make an impact on the game? And then on the wing, matching up against, a Ben Mathurin, potentially an Obi Toppin in switching scenarios. And Aaron Wiggins, what is he going to do off the bench? We know he can score. He's had 40 in games off the bench and as a starter at times during the season. What are those two guys going to do? We know what Wallace can do off the bench. He's been proven, Caruso, but those guys haven't been as consistent, and they may have their number called in the finals.
It feels like that we see this same script regardless of who wins, who loses. There is one or two. Yeah, it's a star-driven league, but it does feel like those extra little juice you get out, that extra little squeeze you get out of those role guys, especially playing at home, as we are fond of saying, comes to play. So that's why I kind of am curious on that. And certainly to your original point, and Mo even laughed, and we've talked about it this week, depth and the Knicks don't really go hand in hand. So if it is the Knicks, that seems like a simple formula. We'll just run until you can't.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think that's the formula if they face New York in the finals. But that won't necessarily work against Indiana. So
yeah. Landon Secrest, our favorite NBA fan, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Expecting to see you in some blue and orange probably the next time we see you, but we appreciate you spending some time with us, and good luck to your Thunder.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Wade. Go OKC. Let's go.
See you soon.
We'll talk to you. Let's take a break here on the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports today. When we come back, we'll get you ready for the weekend. Stick around.
Sarah at the Omni Nashville Hotel. Come see us at Bar Line.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, but it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
The weekend warm-up continues here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And before we get into the final stages of today's show, Wade, you sent us a note here in the last little bit regarding that Sooners-Lady Vols matchup. Expand on that, man. That's pretty cool.
Man, yeah. Big shout out to Jennifer Hawkins. I texted her during the show. We were talking, and I was like, let me. We talked a lot about checking on the Vols fans in our lives. And I said, I got one or two Oklahoma fans. Let me check in with our Pulaski Citizen live broadcast colleague, Jennifer Hawkins, a longtime teacher at Richland School. And I said that, have your vocals recovered from yesterday? And she said, I guess she thought that I already knew this, but I was unaware. She said, yes, fully recovered. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I said, hang on. But yeah, Jennifer originally from the Midwest and kind of, the Sooner state. I don't want to say Texas. I don't want to say Oklahoma out of fear of getting it wrong. And we know how that can go. But she has OU roots. And so she was on hand at the game yesterday. I'm working to see if she's going to go to any more. But she eats, sleeps, and breathes OU sports, but especially softball, and for good reason. So imagine that. You're there. She was in town visiting family and kind of just taking it all in. And then even for a team that has that many highlights and has that many successes, you get treated to something like that. I mean, that is about as good as it gets. She said it was one of the wildest things she's ever been a part of.
I can imagine, man.
Yeah.
That's really pretty cool. I mean, if you're a fan, I'm not sure that you can top that really. So it's cool. It's fortunate that she was able to be there for that, even at the expense of the the team in the state where she now lives, I guess. So she might catch a little grief when she gets back, but that's a cool little experience for her. Yeah, check and see if she's going to continue to be there. Maybe she can be a boots on the ground correspondent for us here over the next little bit. So,
it's interesting. She said she's in town a little bit for a wedding this weekend, but hey, if you get far enough, how close are we talking of a family member here? You might have to just stick around OKC for a while.
Or I don't know if she skips the wedding. I'm assuming the wedding is tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure Oklahoma plays tomorrow. So, might be a decision to be made there for Ms. Hawkins. But, aside from that, big weekend out in Gladeville in Wilson County as the NASCAR makes its stop at the Nashville Super Speedway. Activity starts tonight in the Craftsman Truck Series with the Rackley Roofing 200. That's a 7 o'clock start. If you can't get out to Gladeville, you can watch it on Fox Sports 1. But we'll have coverage. Tommy Bryan in one of his final acts as sports editor of the Wilson Post will be on hand this weekend. Obviously, Larry Woody, our NASCAR expert, will be out there as well. So be sure and check out all the coverage of that on the Wilson Post and other Main Street properties. On Saturday, it's the NASCAR Xfinity Tennessee Lottery 250. That one starts up at 6:30 tomorrow evening. You can see that on the CW. And then obviously the Cup Series event, the Cracker Barrel 400, gets started at 6 o'clock on Sunday. And that can be seen on Amazon Prime. So big weekend of NASCAR racing over at the Nashville Super Speedway in Gladeville. Huge event, man. I've been by that facility, obviously not when there was an event going on. I cannot imagine what traffic and that kind of thing look like out there this weekend. I think with all respect to those who do choose to partake, I think I'll avoid it.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's like me. I've driven by Talladega a couple times, like the day after the race or 2 days after the race, when there's like 2 million porta potties lined up at the side of the road. And I don't want, if I'm going in, I want to be all in. You don't just kind of pick and choose. You don't dip in and dip out. If you're there, you better get there early, and you better be prepared to stay all day. Like last year where they had weather and they had 5 overtimes before Logano ends up winning. Kind of some unexpected drama. Maybe we'll get treated to something similar this year.
Yeah, it's certainly not an in and out kind of thing. And what kills me about that place is it's so remote, man. I mean, it's not like there's restaurants or hotels or anything like that. It's pretty wild. They just sat a racetrack down in the middle of nowhere, but it's going to be a crazy weekend over there, I'm sure, and it'll be a lot of fun for people who partake. The second round of the Memorial PGA Tour event is ongoing in Dublin, Ohio. Nick Taylor is the leader in the clubhouse, followed up a 69 yesterday with a 68 today, 7 strokes under. Scotty Scheffler is lurking at 4 under. Colin Morikawa is at -5, but he is still out today. He's through 13 today. So I'm not familiar with Nick Taylor. Wade, you're a little bit more of a PGA guy than I am. What's You think he's got the goods to hang on for this thing, or what?
Not with those guys lurking. I don't think he's Canadian, and that's all about. Really, I know. This has been an interesting tournament thus far because the numbers have not maybe been as low as you might expect. But you got Morikawa, especially, who seems like he's he's even on the day, but it feels like he's capable of blowing up in a good way. And then certainly Scheffler being in the mix. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of where we're at with Scheffler, right? I mean, he is essentially the modern day Tiger Woods in the sense that he's lurking and everybody else kind of just has to take notice. So I'm going to be curious on that. And I'm disappointed though. My guy, Keegan Bradley, he fired a 69 yesterday, was in great shape at the top 10 on the, was almost flirting with the first round leader, posts a 4 over 76 today. So he's still in the top 20. But Key's got some work to do, tied for 18th at the moment. Going to keep tabs on everybody over the weekend.
Yeah, to your point, it's tough when you know Scotty Scheffler is back there. It feels like it's almost like you're playing and you're looking over your shoulder all at the same time. Ben Griffin shot a 65 yesterday. Hasn't quite followed that up today. He's even through 15, so he is tied with Taylor at 7 under. Be interesting to see if he's able to come close to that 65 and knock Taylor out of the lead heading into Saturday. So it'll be worth keeping an eye on here over the weekend. We mentioned Geodis Park will be the site of a matinee in MLS action tomorrow as the Nashville Soccer Club takes on the NYC Football Club, not to be confused with the New York Red Bulls.
Don't you dare.
NYC FC comes in with a record of 7 wins, 3 draws, and 6 losses. NSC improved to, well, I don't know if they improved. They are 8-4-4, 8 wins, 4 draws, and 4 losses after that 2-2 draw up at Columbus on Wednesday night, but they are unbeaten in their last 9 outings now. So, again, got the 1 point at Columbus on Wednesday, looking for 2 tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, it'd be nice to, man, for as great as this month has been, a win would really, really put a nice bow on it and give them kind of a little bit of confidence heading into an extended little international break. The U.S. men's team will be coming in to Geodis in a couple of weeks. So Nashville, it'd be nice to see them kind of vacate their own building on a good terms. A draw, wouldn't necessarily feel bad. It would borderline feel like a loss to me, considering what you just said. I mean, New York's not a slappy by any means. But if you somehow dropped all 3 points and you did suffer a loss at home, it would kind of almost in some regards undo what has been one of the best months maybe in franchise history, certainly since arriving at the MLS level. So hopefully they can come out, play well, get all 3, and head into the break on good terms.
There we go. Arena football, the Nashville Cats go on the road on Sunday, taking on the Tritons of Corpus Christi. Right now, the Cats are in position for the playoffs for the second year in a row. They are 4-3 after getting off to a rough start. Corpus Christi 3-4 thus far. Again, that is a 5 o'clock kickoff on Sunday in Corpus. Playoff schedules have been set. They will play the semis of the league postseason on June 20th, a couple of weeks. And the championship game is set for June 27th. Again, the top 4 teams out of the league go right now. I believe the Cats are number 3. So that would put them on the road against the number 2 team if seeds hold. So let's see if the Cats can continue to claw their way up the standings. Maybe secure one last Municipal Auditorium appearance in those playoff finals in Arena Football 1. More minor league football. It is the final week of the regular season in the United Football League. Starting tonight as St. Louis travels to D.C. taking on the Defenders. You've also got Houston at Michigan tomorrow. Arlington is at San Antonio. And in the season finale on Sunday it'll be Birmingham at Memphis, the Battle of the Barbecue. But there was news that came out earlier this week. Mike Florio of NBC Sports reporting that attendance at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, is that what they call it? Formerly the Liberty Bowl. The Showboats only drew 2,044 last weekend when Arlington came to town. The Renegades got out with a 30-12 loss, so maybe folks knew what they were doing when they didn't go. But the Showboats averaged just under 7,000 fans last season. They have not come close to that figure in any of their 3 previous home games. Again, 2,044 last weekend. Their season high was 4,700 and some change. And there might be some movement with regards to the Showboats prior to the 2026 season. Daryl Johnston, formerly Moose, the fullback.
Yeah, Moose, right?
Yep, that's him. Is the UFL Executive Vice President of Football Operations. He said prior to the season that the league will take it a season at a time in Memphis. So they were already on the radar. So we could see the UFL leaving the Bluff City at the end of this season or sometime before the start of the 2026 season. Again, Memphis 2-7, but they do have some nice looking gear. So, just for what that's worth.
Yeah, be kind of curious to keep tabs on that. And minor league football in Memphis in May, they got Barbecue Fest going on. I mean, that's a tough sell. In some regards, I'm not surprised by those figures. Real quick, though, you did mention DC and St. Louis. That's a massive game. DC stubbed their toe last week. Horrible loss, really, in the grand scheme of things, to Houston. So they're now trailing St. Louis in the XFL division. So that'll be a big game tonight. The biggest game of the whole week is going to take place tonight at 7 on Fox.
I don't know what they did the first time they played, but yeah, if DC can come up with a win, then they'll be tied atop the XFL conference standings. They have both clinched a spot in the playoffs, but I don't know who would go as the 1 and who would go as the 2 should DC get that win. But we'll certainly be rooting for former Tennessee State quarterback and now, I guess, interim DC Defenders coach Shannon Harris and receiver Chris Rowland. We've mentioned 2 former Ravenwood receivers on this show today. Good for us.
That's what we bring to the table. We can connect the dots like nobody else, right?
Absolutely. Meanwhile, again, Birmingham trying to play for the USFL conference title and the 1 seed coming out of there as they go to Memphis in the Battle of the Barbecue. Michigan and Birmingham are currently tied at 6-3. Again, both of them are assured of playoff berths as well. So your 4 teams for the playoffs are set, but who's where and who's playing who, we won't know until the end of Sunday night's play. So stay tuned there. That's going to do us for the weekend warm-up edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Be sure and come back with us here Monday at 2 o'clock when we get you caught up on everything that has taken place and get you into the next week. We'll see you 2 o'clock Monday. Y'all have a great weekend.